Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another special GMAT Club YouTube live session. I am Selby, your host for today, and I'm thrilled to be joined by Manraj, who has an incredible GMAT journey to share with us. Now, Manraj started his GMAT prep in late 2023, and he faced several ups and downs and went from scoring a 565 on the GMAT Focus to an impressive 685, which is in the 98th percentile. Now, that is an incredible jump, and today we'll break down exactly how he did it. So, if you're currently preparing for the GMAT and struggling with inconsistent scores, this session is for you. So, stick around and ask your questions in the chat, in the comments, live comments down there, and let's learn actually from Manraj's experience. So, Manraj, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. And before we dive into the details, can you give us a quick introduction about yourself and what motivated you to take the GMAT?
Sure. Thank you, Selby, for inviting me over for this amazing debrief session.
Mhm,
So, a little bit about me. My name is Manraj. I have 4 years of work experience. Right now, I'm working with Expedia Group as a software developer. Uh, Before this, in college, I did my BTech at the Delhi Technological University.
mhm.
Formerly, they used to call it Delhi College of Engineering. And I think that's about it.
Awesome. All right. Now let's, I guess, talk quickly about your GMAT journey. As far as I read your debrief, which is there, by the way, guys, on the GMAT Club forum, you can check it out. We'll have it in the description somewhere. You first attempted the GMAT in the December 2023, and you scored a 660, the GMAT Classic version. And then you faced a series of score drops before hitting your breakthrough moment. So, can you take us through your test attempts, how you prepared initially, and why you think your scores kept declining?
Sure. So, very initially, I started my preparation around January 23, but
Mm-hmm.
that was a very on and off kind of a preparation. I used to, be busy with my work, and on the weekends, I just used to open the official OG book and just flip through the chapters and go through it. And
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that somehow I'll manage to clear the GMAT, but that doesn't happen. So, by the time August happened, I got a bit serious. I realized that my weaknesses lie in the verbal section, and Quant more or less was sorted because of my engineering background.
Gotcha.
Thereafter, I realized that in verbal, CR is also weak, RC is also weak, and so is sentence correction. I had no
Mm.
strengths. You won't believe in RC, I used to take around half an hour to read a passage and solve it completely. So I had to improve a lot in there.
Oh
So
gosh.
initially, during my first attempt, I kind of followed official resources, and
Mm-hmm.
other than that, I also followed a lot of unofficial resources
Mm.
like LSAT and all. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
basically, that happened, and a lot of practice was there, a lot of focus was there, but it was mindless practice, I would say. Not
Mm.
a very mindful kind of practice, not a very focused kind of practice, which led
Mm-hmm.
me to reach a certain level, the 80th percentile, but not cross it. I got a
Under.
decent 49 score in quant, but verbal was, it barely touched 30, it was just 30. I'm talking
Oh.
about the classic GMAT.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, and what the other thing that was happening was that GMAT Classic was supposed to end by January 24, and
Mm-hmm.
I gave my first attempt in December 23. So I was like, it's about to get over, and I've prepared for this. I should give one or two attempts more and get
Mm.
done with it as soon as possible. But little did I know that the GMAT algorithm does not have mercy on people like me who aren't well prepared but want to get done with it ASAP. So I gave two subsequent attempts in January, but my score kind of went down from 660 to a 620 and ultimately to a 640. And
Mm.
that was kind of a wake up call for me that maybe I actually need to do some improvements in my verbal section. And quant in all three attempts was 49. So I was like, quant is all right, but verbal needs a major improvement. And then
Mm.
came GMAT focus. So DI also had to be studied for. So
You
that's
must
how my
have
December
got
and first three
and
attempts.
Like
Yeah.
the GMAT classic is tough as is. I'm not doing well. I'm reattempting it, and now I have to study for the focus also.
Exactly. Yeah.
You took the focus. What? Okay, I can see you took the focus test six around five months later. So
Hmm.
you must have taken your sweet time to like sit and prepare. But it's surprising you got a 565. So
Hmm.
what went into your head when you got that score?
You won't believe me, Selby. I that was a really I went into the exam hall and I had a feeling that I'll score really good. And in
Yeah.
fact, I started off with verbal, then came DI, and in the end I do Quant. So uh the verbal, as I already told you, was a weak section for me. So over the last 6 months, although I again did a lot of mindless practice, but I
Mm.
was like, maybe I'll do better in verbal this time, right?
Mm.
And I also scored a 59 percentile, if I remember correctly, in verbal during my 565
Mhm.
in my June 24 attempt. But when DI came, Selvi, I was like, all right, this is easy. This is easy. Let me get done with it. And I was pacing through the whole exam. And yet, in the last two questions, I didn't have enough time, and I kind of rapidly pressed the button, and I thought I was done with it, but the exam got over, and I couldn't even do the last two questions.
Oh
And my
God.
percentile in DI was about 18, I think, 18 percentile. I got a score of 69. So that was kind of very demotivating for me, that even after 6 months of studying, I kind of did poorly. So 565 translates to a 620 in classic. So mentally I felt as if I haven't improved at all, and it was really hard on me.
You said you skipped or you did not even attempt two questions in DI.
I could not even get time to attempt it. I kind of got lost in between on a hard question, and by the
Mhm.
time I was at the end of the paper, the last two questions, I kind of couldn't get enough time to attempt those. So it
Oh
was
God.
bad time management on my part.
But when you said you did like very mindless practice, what do you
Mhm.
mean by that? What does mindless practice look like to you? You just aimlessly like solved questions wherever you could. What was your approach at that
So, Selby, what I would say to this is that, I have given the Indian engineering examinations and all. And back in the day, we used to kind of, just get the book, get the questions, and just do a lot of practice. And that used to work well for us. In fact, it worked well for me. I got a 99 plus percentile in my JE as well. But the problem is that JE was all about quantitative, right? There's no verbal in it. Here, on the other hand, a lot of practice for GMAT might help in the quantitative part, but for the verbal and the DI part, if you don't have clarity, if you don't have the necessary skill, then a lot of mindless or a lot of practice would reinforce the wrong habits, right? And once you have, because in verbal, the answers are not correct or wrong, right? It's not that four answers are wrong and one is correct. It's about shades of correct, right? Maybe A is a better answer than B, right? So those shades of correct you have to find out. So during my June 24 attempt, I was, you know, a lot of mistakes I was doing. I was focusing on the quantity, right? I was focusing on the volume, and I was not focusing on whether the questions are official or not, right? I was also focusing on timing myself. I wanted to do my question in less than 2 minutes, but I wasn't ready for that question, right? I couldn't possibly be able to do that question in less than 2 minutes because it was supposed to be a hard question. So things like that. I wasn't maintaining an error log. Everybody says to maintain an error log, and I thought I was maintaining one because in the UI, when you do a wrong answer, you kind of it's there. So I was like, after doing it wrong, I just went through the answers and I was like, it's all right. Now I know it. But things like these reinforce the wrong habits, the bad habits, and that kind of crept up in the examination as well. So GMAT is a very scientific exam, is a basic yet a scientific exam, and I think it has to be approached very scientifically.
Okay, okay. So, I mean, I understand, like especially in India, like with the way things are, like there's like this habit of liking to cram a lot of things. Like even when you prepare for exams, you just cram, 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 or you try to get all of the knowledge inside your head. But with the GMAT, it's not really like that. I think it's a lot of logical reasoning, time management. Like it's a lot of multiple factors that you have to consider to get a good score.
I
Um,
agree.
but I saw that you got the 65 in June 2024, but then somehow again after 5 to 6 months of practice, you scored a 685. So what was that turning point like, and how did you shift from that cramming and practicing mindlessly to a more effective study strategy?
Yeah, so basically, after my June attempt, I for a month. So basically, one more thing what I want to add is that after my December and the Jan attempts, between Jan and June, I focused on GMAT a lot. I overstudied, right? I got every hour that I can out of my day and I focused my energies there. That kind of did not work well for me. Uh, I did not work out. I did not be social, right? All those things I kind of took out of my life and I devoted to GMAT. And that didn't work out well for me. So that kind of made me introspect a lot. And after my 565 June 24 attempt, I kind of opened the the basic the graph, and I saw where exactly am I lacking. Quant, as I told you, was sorted since the starting. Even in the 565 attempt, I got a score of I think 85th percentile in Quant. So I understood that Quant is sorted. I made a mental note that I will not study Quant now. If I have to, I will do that at the fag end, right? In the three attempts that I gave for GMAT Classic, in the 620 attempt, I asked for an ESR sheet. In that ESR sheet, I realized that my verbal, although it was a 25 or a 26 score, a V26 maybe, my RC was pretty good in that. I don't know how. Yeah, maybe I kind of, like I told you, my RCs, I used to take 30 minutes for every RC. So I kind of over focused during that time to on RC. So I kind of thought that maybe it has improved. So after my June attempt, in June also I got a decent percentile in RC, I think. So I was like, RC is also maybe sorted. So I would not devote all my energy on RC. So it was very crystal clear to me that DI, like I told you, was 18th percentile. So I have to majorly focus on DI and I have to focus on CR, which was also a suboptimal score. So with these two things in mind, I researched a bit, found some resources, and am I audible? Hello.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, after my June attempt, I kind of researched a bit and found Chiranjeev and Anish, and I got in touch with them and I joined their course, which is GMAT Intensive. So basically, they kind of, the skills that I already had, they kind of sharpened those by not by teaching me what to do, but teaching me how to think. So how to approach this exam. So a lot of mentality shift was there, a lot of introspection was there, a lot of psychological changes were there between June and January, which not just translated to my GMAT score, but to my personal life as well. So I kind of didn't take GMAT as my sole purpose of life in these 5 months. So I took it as an additional part of my life, which has to be given 2 or 3 hours every day, right? And that's how I approached it. I can also talk about more about the kind of practice that I did, more about the mindful practice that I did. If you want me to go ahead, Selby.
Yeah, yeah. And I can see that there are some questions. So sorry, I'm just gonna go back. The two for GMAT intensive, you use that for your verbal or uh for overall
I
GMAT focus?
specifically used it for DI and CR.
DI and CR. Okay, okay, okay. I mean, so some people here are asking, How did you improve your CR? What really changed your accuracy for strengthen and weaken questions? And other people are also interested to know more about like your verbal strategy.
Mhm.
So I guess you can, yes, talk about your more mindful practice and at the same
Yeah.
time cover a little bit about verbal.
Sure. So, the most important thing which I learned was that in verbal specifically, every question, and in every question, every option has to be treated like a new question. For example, a CR question has five options. Now, these five options can be twisted and asked in another question, right? Because the rationale of the question would remain the same, right? Now, what I used to do was in my previous attempts, because a time of 2 minutes we have to devote to a GMAT question, I used to rush through the question. For example, a CR question, I used to rush through the passage and try and answer the questions. And when I read a sentence, and if it's a hard sentence, like the hard level questions are, the options are also pretty twisted. So I couldn't comprehend the statement itself, and I kind of wrecked my brains to understand it. Yet I then kind of had a, a, a somewhat understanding of what the option was trying to say. And then, on the basis of that subpar understanding, I tried to answer the question. And that's why I used to get wrong answers. So, the first thing in my mindful practice, what I did was that I understood word by word what every question means, what every statement means, what every passage means, what every question stem means, right? So, in order to do a question within the given time limit, what you have to do initially is to slow down. You won't believe me, Selby. I started my CRs with a time of, like, after my June attempt, I used to take 8 to 9 minutes for a question, right? And we were told that it is okay to do it in 8 to 9 minutes, right? It's all right. Give yourself enough time, think it over, think through all the options, and then take an informed decision, then write an answer. So that's how I went about it. I took all the time needed for a question. I read every statement, I understood what every statement means, and then I marked an answer. That way, a lot of less so earlier what I used to do was I used to read the passage, then I used to read the option, then I used to go back to the question and read the passage again. That was because I didn't comprehend the passage in the first place. Now, after reading line by line and understanding and comprehending, I made a mental framework wherein I understood things. And thereafter, I moved to the options. And then I kind of chose the right answer. Earlier, what I also used to do was I used to read all the options and I used to reject three and I used to leave two. And out of the two, I used to select the best one, right?
Mm,
But it doesn't happen like that. Even in these two options, one is the right one and one is the wrong one.
correct.
The GMAT people are, very intelligent people. They are high level of intellect people, and they kind of invest a lot of money, thousands of dollars in every question, in every option. So it's not that one option is wrong, and it's not that two options are right. One
Mm,
is wrong. So that's our level of clarity that is lacking, that we think both are right and this is more right. So that
right.
kind of clarity we need to develop for every CR question
Mm,
to ensure that we are very clear about it.
mhm.
Also, my kind of weak point in CR specifically was strengthen and weaken, where I realized I used to falter a lot. So I
Mhm.
just followed the same strategy only, that I was very deliberate and I gave enough time for every option, for every question stem, every question passage. And initially, I took as much time as I could. And only when I was able to get the questions correctly for the easy questions, which is less than 25% difficulty on GMAT Club, when I
Mhm.
was able to do them with a 90% accuracy, right? For a set of 10 questions, say I am able to do nine of them correctly. Then only I move to a higher difficulty, or I used to reduce the time, right? Now, after seven, if I'm able to do 90% of them correctly in the in 7 minutes, then I was like, okay, I can at least do them. Now let's reduce the time a bit and try to do them in 5 minutes. Then I brought it to four, then I brought it to two. That is how I, derived a sense of confidence for these easy level questions. Then and only then I moved to, say, medium level questions of strengthen and weaken. There also I followed the same pattern. I gave myself as much time as required, and once I was able to do it with the certain accuracy that I want, which is 85%, I reduced the time. And when I reduced the time, then also I didn't do it with a timer in front of me. I used to have a mental timer wherein I kind of try to push myself, but still at a comfortable pace. I wasn't able to do questions in CR under 2 minutes till the fag end of my preparation. So, yeah. And I still got I think a 95 percentile in CR, around that, 90 plus percentile in CR.
Oh,
So,
nice.
so basically, I was grasping everything throughout the months and learning bit by bit, and making a framework in my mind. And I think that eventually worked well. So that is the first pointer, which is quality over quantity in the practice. So
Right.
quality is you have to treat every option as a question, and you also have to just focus on the official material. That is what I recommend, because these questions are very well framed, and
Mm-hmm.
that really helps with the preparation.
Cool.
Second is that I used to do multiple revisions for every missed question. This time I maintained an error log. I kind of wrote what I was thinking for every wrong option, what I could think, what I couldn't think, why I thought what I thought. So I was very clear about it that, I have to have that sense of clarity this time. So
Mm.
I mentioned everything in that Excel sheet that I made, that I was thinking this when I saw this sentence or when I saw this word, why my mind is working like this when it should work like that, right?
Mm.
So things like that, I cleared my mental framework and I derived a sense of clarity which I wanted for my final examination. Also, what I
Mm.
want to suggest is that on GMAT Club, when the viewers practice, they should only, refer to the answers by the experts and not
Correct.
everybody, especially in CR, uh, because, a lot of meanings can be taken out of these sentences, but what the correct meaning is, what the correct answer is, can be answered only by the experts. So
Cool.
people like GMAT Ninja, Karishma, people like them, the
Okay.
experts on GMAT Club, I think uh, they should be referred.
Correct.
Uh, Moving forward, the third point, yeah, so much quality over quantity in the practice made me accustomed to the tricky and the confusing language. This is primarily for DI, because I got confused by the language that GMAT uses, the
Mm.
tricky percentages, and they used to trick
What
us
was your
into.
score in DI when you got the 585 in June? Or five, it was a 585, right? Yeah,
Yeah, it was
585.
a 565. Yeah,
565, sorry.
yeah. What about it?
Like whenever you took the DI, that was your first time
Yeah,
attempting the DI, and you took it, in which order did you actually attempt your first GMAT focus?
that was in verbal, DI,
Mm-hmm.
and then quant.
Yeah, and how was your DI experience for the first time?
Uh, so when I was giving my first DI examination, which was in June in the GMAT focus, I kind of thought mentally that okay, it's just DI, it's just a new paper, and I have a solid quant footing, and why can't I handle this? And I've done a lot of practice, like
Mm-hmm.
mindless practice. I was like, I'll be able to handle it. But when the paper happened, I kind of rush through the questions, and those tricks and those confusing language which the GMAT tends to use, I kind of misread it and understood it in a different manner, and kind of marked the wrong options, the trick options, and that kind of didn't work well for me. Also, my time management was very bad, which I, in my subsequent attempt, I learned how to manage my time, which I will talk about later. So that also, because of bad time management, I wasn't able to do the last two questions as well in DI, which led me to score just a 18 percentile, which is a score of 69 in DI in my June attempt, which really broke me apart.
And from that, now you went with a DI 84, which
Yeah,
means you
that's
definitely did something
yeah,
correct.
18 percentile to a 97 percentile India. Yeah, so that
Crazy,
was
crazy.
kind of an achievement for me. I felt really nice after that.
Mm. And you were just talking about like your DI approach. So because you talked about your CR and how it was more of like a slow and steady to a more fast pace, since you needed to understand each and everything. Was it that
Mhm.
same thing for you for DI as well, that you had to
Exactly.
cover? That's
Exactly. In DI also, I understood that I have to go very slow. I have to be very deliberate, and
mm-hmm.
I have to, absorb from every question.
Mm-hmm.
CR, studying for CR kind of helped me get a good score in DI as well, because a lot of questions are CR based in DI.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of contributed there.
Mm-hmm.
Plus my quant was all right. Plus the CR, which I just said talked about, really helped me. And yeah, so all these approaches that I mentioned, the same thing I applied in DI as well. Being very
Mm-hmm.
deliberate, thinking about where I can go wrong, what mistakes am I making, what went right, what went wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, even later on, when I was giving my mock examinations, my mock tests before my actual attempt, I was not faring well in DI. So that was also partially due to bad time management. So I asked myself, why am I not able to manage time? Then an answer came that basically I spend a lot of time in some questions, right? And then I'm not able to do them. So then I understood that maybe these hard questions I have to skip. So then the question came that how will I know this is a hard question, right? Before. So I had to make a mental framework to find out whether this is a hard question or not. Because I had a tendency to jump into questions and just solve them and, get done with it. But then I had to ask myself to calm down, to understand, read it, take a strategic decision whether you have to attempt it or it is a time breaker for you. So all these things they kind of help me in DI.
Awesome. And then I see that also the other points that are mentioned here in your mindful practice approach is that you try to achieve a 90% on your easy questions, which is understandable. That is actually the right approach where you should focus on making sure your easy questions you get most of them correct. And then
Mhm.
medium questions, you can get a few wrong, but then it's fine if you get a lot more wrong on hard. As long as you ace your easy questions, you're good to go. So when did you start during your practice? When did you start realizing, okay, I'm mastering now my easy questions. Now let's go to the medium ones.
Yeah, so for some topics, easy happened to be me mastering easy happened a bit earlier. For
Mm-hmm.
some topics, it happened a bit late. For example, boldface, which people generally find hard, boldface questions in CR, I generally found them to be all right. I could attempt them. So my easy, medium, hard accuracy was all right. However, for other topics like strength and weaken, for inference, for paradox, all these topics, it was very hard for me. Easy, trust me. I don't know why, according to GMAT Club or according to GMAT, those questions are easy, but sometimes even easy questions can be mind-boggling. So my advice to the test takers would be to not get demotivated even if they are getting even easy questions wrong, because you have to understand how the examination works. If you are not able to get a certain accuracy in the easy questions, you will be shown easy questions only. Until and unless your easy questions are going well, you won't be shown medium questions. And even if you're doing very well in the examination, if you score, let's say you're doing you're attempting a 740 or 700 level paper, you're doing very well, right? And then suddenly you get shown a very easy question and you're not able to do it, your score will go down. This happened to me in one of my mock test practices, wherein I got a very low percentile in quant, which was my strong subject. So in that third mock attempt, I realized that how important these easy questions are as well. So till the time your mental framework is set that you will be able to solve these easy questions, you know the tips and tricks behind it, you're completely sure about it, only then move to the medium questions. Otherwise, there's no point. And trust me, if you get a 90% accuracy on easy questions, half the part for the medium questions is done, because medium questions are just easy refurbished, right? So you'll be able to do them. You just need a little bit more, you need to wreck your brains a bit more, but that'll be done. Half the part is done. So easy first, 90%, 85% medium, and then you have to try and get a 80% on the hard questions. And what I used to do was I used to leave the very hard questions, because the very hard questions are 95% on GMAT Club. So I personally thought that these questions are very hard, and I know I am starting from a very low level, 30 percentile, 40 percentile on CR, and I want to go to, a very high level. But I was like, all right, let's not get too perturbed about not being able to do the very hard questions. We'll keep them for the end. And that's what I did. I focused mainly on the easy, medium, hard. And thereafter, if I had the time, I focused on the very hard. And even in very hard, I didn't get a very high accuracy. I just got a probably 50-ish, but I was okay with it, because those were the hardest of the hard questions.
I see. And also, I don't think we touched too much on this point, but like which resources did you use overall? You said you had took the GMAT intensive, and I'm sure GMAT club questions and the official guide. But were there any other resources you used for your prep?
So mainly in GMAT intensive, what we were given were three Excel sheets:
Mm-hmm.
CR tracker, DI tracker, and Quant tracker. The Quant one I didn't open. CR and DI were there with me, and these trackers simply had questions from GMAT Club, the links there, and they were segregated on the basis of difficulty. So easy, medium, hard, and very hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I simply followed just these GMAT club questions, these official questions, and followed the strategy which I just talked about, doing them in the time, slowly reducing the time and increasing the accuracy. So I
I see.
only focused on official questions, and I didn't focus at all on unofficial questions this time.
I see. Also, Manraj, can you like come on frame so that we both are like, I have
Yeah.
a bit of OCD. Yeah. I see you're like a little bit lower. Okay, perfect. Okay, I can see that there are some questions, and guys, I can see a lot of you are here on the YouTube live. Feel free to just put a like on this video. Let's make sure that this video reaches to more GMAT test takers and it helps with their GMAT prep. So quickly give a like while you're here and subscribe if you have not. And yeah, thank you so much. All right, I am now gonna move to a few questions because there were some that I kind of missed. There were people who were actually asking about your quant, which we did not talk too much because you said that that was sort of easy for you. You did well in your classic as well as your focus. But what would you suggest for quant for those who typically struggle with it?
Uh, I might not be the right person to answer for quant, so I would advise the viewers to take my advices with a pinch of salt. However, saying that, I would say that for quant also you can follow the same strategy, which is, focusing first on the easy questions, then the medium, then the hard, because that is how the paper will be shown to you.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, the paper is a good mixture of all questions, all kinds of questions from all topics. So don't leave any topics. However, PNC, permutations and combinations, and probability generally is a little hard. For me, also, PNC sometimes ended up being a kind of a it used to take me a lot of time, those questions. So that was already in my mind when I was taking my official examination, that if I get any question of this sort, I would probably skip it, PNC questions. So my advice would be the same, that uh, practice practice a lot, because that worked for me for quant. A lot of practice, but at the same time, maintain an error log, because you want to optimize your time. You don't want to do a lot of mindless practice, which I did. So maintain an error log, maintain, write down reasons for what is going wrong, what is going right. Uh, Even if you take a lot of time initially, that's all right. Slowly, with practice, that will go down. And hard topics like probability and PNC, don't get too worried about it. We all make mistakes in those.
That's true. I think everyone struggles with those questions
Yeah.
all the time, which is true. Okay, thank you for that. And I'll just pick up a few more questions. Someone here said, how did you classify medium questions? Was it 25 to 45% medium according to GMAT Club?
Yeah, that's how I classified it. 25% to 45% was medium. 55 to 85 was hard, and 95% was very hard for me. So
Okay,
that's how I classified it.
gotcha, gotcha. All right. Okay, let me see one more question. Someone here said, do you think it is smart to take a little bit more time on each question in CR to increase the chance of answering right and take the risk of not having enough time to answer the 2 to 3 last questions?
Hmm. Uh, my advice is that never ever leave the last 2 3 questions, because I did that in my June 24 attempt, and I got a percentile of 69 in DI. So in any case, you have to complete your examination, even if you mark them wrong. You just have to complete it. Saying
Hmm.
that, uh, I think it has to be a strategic decision on the basis of your capability, that okay, my CR capability is that I'm able to get a 90% accuracy in easy. I am able to do maybe 80% questions all right in medium, but I am getting a 50% accuracy in hard. All right.
Hmm.
One of the blogs I read, I think it was by GMAT Ninja or somebody, that in whichever difficulty you're getting a 50% accuracy, you can somewhat judge that that is your level, right? And those are the kinds of questions that will be thrown at you by the GMAT algorithm, right? So if I'm getting a 50% in hard, so my level somewhere lies between 55 to 85% in GMAT club difficulty, right? So now you have to judge if that question that you're investing time in is more than that difficulty or less. If it's less, then I would advise you to do it and move ahead. If it's more, then take a strategic call, maybe just, fluke and go ahead. What if the last 2 questions are easy, right? You don't want to leave those.
True, true, true. That's true. Uh, I see a few more questions, but we've already talked about it. These are questions related to what is GMAT intensive and also what other resources you use. So, guys, I mean, you can obviously go a little back, scroll through the video somewhere, and you'll see those answers. But you can quickly actually talk about GMAT intensive. Uh, Manraj, like, can you tell me how exactly the structure is? And
Yeah, sir. So basically, GMAT Intensive is an online course that is run by two individuals called Chiranjeev Singh and Anish Pasi. You can research about them on LinkedIn, and you can Google them as well. Chiranjeev, I think, is a 100 percentiler. He has gotten a 735 in GMAT Focus, and Anish is also a 760 scorer in the GMAT Classic.
Mhm.
And more than their scores, what I like about them is the way they think, the way they approach questions, and the way they teach you how to think. So they kind of help me, you know uh, think differently, not just GMAT wise, but life wise as well. So I would wholeheartedly recommend them to the other aspirants. I basically refer to their online course, and which had recorded lectures. And every weekend, we used to have office hours wherein we used to get our doubts cleared. So that was really helpful for me.
That's awesome. I see another question, and then I will move on to the next bit of your GMAT prep. On your approach on strength and weaken assumption, did you use to find gaps or pre-think before going to options?
Right. So, in strengthen and weaken, so basically in all these questions, after a lot of practice, what
Mm-hmm.
happens is after a point of time, you uh, get to know some gaps, right? So you kind of predict certain gaps, and sometimes, but not always, but sometimes it happens when you're reading the question, the answers, the choices. One of the choices is the exact gap that you thought about, right? And you are like, all right, this is the one. But still you can't you that's all right, but still I would say that you have to consider all the other options as well, and then take the best choice. So it's not that I used to stop. I used to give myself enough time after reading the passage to find out the gaps and all. I used to make a mental framework of the whole passage. And but it's not that I used to pre-think or do a gap analysis for all the questions. Sometimes I just had to go ahead and do it. So sometimes the gaps come out, sometimes they don't.
That's true. Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you for that. And now I guess let's move on to the next bit, which is your mock tests. So it
Mhm.
definitely played a huge role in your improvement. And just let us know, how often were you taking them and how did you analyze your mistakes?
Yeah. So, like I told you, I started my preparation in, so June was my last to last GMAT focus attempt,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, after that I chilled for a bit because I just wanted to relax. So July went like that, and from August I started preparing seriously. So I gave myself August, September, October, and November, and uh, I basically had a mental timeline that I wanted to get done with my GMAT focus by December. Partly
Mm-hmm.
because GMAT only allowed you to give 5 attempts in a year. It still only allows you to give just 5 attempts in a year. And my first attempt was in December 23. So mentally, I didn't want to rush through my 5 attempts. So I wanted to save my fifth attempt and my final attempt for December. So I also made a mental note that this would be my final attempt, and let's see how that goes. So
Mm-hmm.
I by August, September, October, and November. By November end, I reached the end of my preparation. Uh, I was still not very confident about certain things, but I knew that I have to draw a line somewhere, and I have to, a lot of. It's not that I can devote as much time and just keep on practicing and whatnot. So I knew that wherever I am, I have to believe in myself, and I have to now buckle up. So
Mm-hmm.
that's when I kind of booked an examination, and thereafter I booked an examination for January the 10th because I didn't get an attempt for December. So after that, from December I started preparing for my mock tests. So my first mock test I gave on 6th of December. I've written it down.
Mm-hmm.
And so I gave it. I got a score of 615. So that translates to a 680 in GMAT Classic. And as usual, my quant was pretty good. It was an 89 percentile. And verbal, as usual, was not good, which is a 51 percentile. And DI was all right, a 66th percentile. So I would also like to tell that I started my examination DI first in this attempt, then verbal, and then quant. So
Mm-hmm.
this made me question my strategy and what is going right, what is going wrong, and all that. So basically, after this attempt, I found out a few weak points. For example, in CR, I realized that I'm really weak. I'm still very weak in strengthen and weaken. And in DI, I was making certain mistakes in certain topics. So I kind of focused on those. I focused on the level of difficulty that I am making mistakes in. and I reanalyzed, and I kind of, focused my energies towards those specific topics. And this time I tried to, during my practice sessions between my mocks, what I used to do was I used to uh, make a kind of take a bunch of questions and used to divide them into levels of difficulty. For example, I'll take 11 easy questions, or
Mm-hmm.
say 8 easy questions, 8 medium, and some hard. So I used to make take a bunch of 20 questions, and majority of them used to be the medium level. Some of them easy and some of them hard, but majority used to be medium level, and that's how I practiced those. And then I used to calculate a level of accuracy in the stipulated time frame, if I'm able to get it or not. And that's how I kind of sharpened the blade in between the mocks. So this was the first mock. I gave myself good enough time. I gave myself 13 days between this mock and the second mock, and I kind of did all that. And then I gave my second mock, and you won't believe me, I again scored a 615, and the exact percentile distribution for all the three subjects.
Oh,
And
crazy.
yeah, and then I started questioning myself, what the heck is happening? Why am I not getting a score that I deserve? What is happening? What is going wrong? Right? And I was able to do the hard questions as well in DI, but I realized that maybe there's a little bit of time mismanagement. Maybe I'm giving more time to the hard questions, and because of that, I'm not able to do the medium ones, the easy ones, things like that. In verbal, also, I realized that CR I'm able to do now, but sometimes I kind of focus on the hard questions more in
Mm.
order to do them. I used to tussle with them, and because of that I used to leave a medium question in the fag end, or maybe an easy question in between there somewhere. So all of that came up. And one more major change which I made was that I thought that how can it be in both these attempts I get the same percentile. So then I went back to my previous attempts and I thought that why did I used to give verbal first and now I'm giving DI first? Then the answer came that maybe because I got a 18 percentile in my June attempt, right? So I want to get more in DI. But now I'm getting a 66 percentile in DI, right? But my verbal is still 51. And I was like, that means I have to give verbal first. So I kind of made verbal my first this thing subject, and then DI, and then Quant. So this is how I went about it. And then I gave my third attempt on 28th of December, which is 9 days after my second mock, right? And I solely practiced these topics, and I gave it. Now, this time, you won't believe me. Again, I got a score of 615. This time, I got a higher score in verbal and DI, but my quant went down.
Oh,
So it's
interesting.
I became overconfident in my quant, and I
Mm.
made. Remember, I told you I made a very silly mistake, a very easy mistake in quant, because of which the score goes down, right?
Correct.
So I was getting overconfident in my quant skills, and I was, you know, my verbal and my DI went up. My verbal became from 51 to a 79, and my DI went from a 66 to a 73. But my quant went down, and that brought my score there. And then I understood I can't let my quant also go down. This is not the way to go. My quant is my strong subject, and this has to be my strong subject. And I really took it seriously, and I focused specifically on my weak parts in my quant, and redid the questions, but in a mindful way, not n number of topics, only the certain number of certain topics which I'm weak at. And after that, I gave my fourth attempt. This time I got a score of 655. And in this mock attempt, my quant was as expected. It was a little bit below. Generally, I was getting an 89 percentile. I got a 85. DI was also all right. It was somewhere around 79. I got a 79 percentile. And my verbal went very well this time. I got a 96 percentile, right?
Mm.
And this was my last mock before my actual examination. So that was kind of a confidence booster for me. And I thought that I'm able to get a 700 plus score, right? And but still there was a question mark in my mind that maybe verbal, this was an outlier, right? Because I get a very high score in verbal. So I started doubting myself again, but I let those doubts come and go. And I was very neutral about it. And I was, mentally very I handled my emotions and I was like, I have to go give the examination, and I can't let any doubts come this time. So, and that's when I went for my examination 5 days after this. And as expected, quant was somewhere around that only. I was getting 89 generally. In my examination, I got a 91. So that went fine. In verbal, I was getting 79 and 96. I got in my third and fourth. This time I got a 76 percentile, which is verbal 82. And in my DI, I don't know how it happened, but I got a 97th percentile. So I really buckled up in my DI, and that is how I got a 685 in my final attempt. Yeah.
But it's interesting how you didn't like, because you've been taking so many attempts at this point. I'm sure it must
Yeah.
have come in your head like, why maybe I should like practice a bit more and maybe take one more mock. But the fact that you went with your gut feeling and you're like, no, I'm gonna take it in 5 days. I don't care
Yeah.
anymore. I'm tired. Let's do this. That kind
Yeah.
of worked out for you, and you did get a good score. And I'm sure there must have been a strategy before your test day where you must have tried to make
Yeah.
yourself calm, and I mean, how was that like?
Yeah, so I would also like to advise all the test takers that don't make GMAT your life and just attempt it as another part of your life. Like you give time for your food, for your work, for your workout, for your social life. GMAT is also a part of it, and start enjoying it. Don't try to fight it back. You don't have to beat the GMAT. You have to uh, work through it. You have to uh, understand what they want, right? So after my June attempt, I basically had some of the hardest time at my work. We had to work for over 12 hours on some days, and we were working on weekdays as well, weekends as well. So other than that, I ensured that I didn't miss my workouts. I went to the gym regularly
Mm,
and all that. I maintained a decent. I was meeting my friends and all, so I had a social life as well. And I was on a fitness journey during that time. So I was on a 400 calorie diet. So from a 2100 calorie, I kind of reduced it down till around 1400 by the end of it. So
easy.
all this I managed while studying for GMAT, and I also opened a run club in between.
Oh,
So
wow.
because I really like running, I was like, let's do this. One of my friends and I got together and we opened a run club. It's called Delhi Run Collective. So this
Oh,
also happened in between. Yeah. So I was, not fighting against this examination. I was like, I'll do my life, I'll live my life, and I'll do it. If I'm giving this examination to become a manager, I'm supposed to be able to manage life beforehand, right? And that's what I learned to do. So
true.
it was more of a transformative journey for me. And yeah, other than this, I think before the examination, uh, the exam giving strategy, if I talk about, I would like
Mhm.
to tell people that don't think that if you're not getting enough marks in your mock test, you won't get a high score in your final examination. uh, I was of the belief that if I get so much score in my mock, I'll get minus 20 in my final because of me not being able to handle my emotions and all that. But
Mhm.
if you maintain a decent fitness regimen and you go out for your walks, for your runs, or whatever suits you, you're doing well mentally, physically, uh, you'll be able to handle the exam pressure.
Right.
Because GMAT is meant to break you, they are supposed to show you hard questions. So you have to understand that this is a hard question. Do I have to skip it or do I not have to skip it? Right? You have to take that executive decision.
Right.
So, first is that yes, you can score higher than your mocks. Don't get perturbed. Find out which section troubles you the most. For me, it was verbal. That's why I attempted it the first. So
Mhm.
do that. Talking about time management, uh, I would advise people to divide their sections into 5 parts. Like for example, I used to divide uh, my time. I used to allocate my time such that for question 1 starts at time 45 and the question 5 starts at time 36. Question 9 would start at time 27, 13 at 18. So that way I had a mental framework, not even a mental, I used to write it down on my sheet. So I used to know that when such and such time comes on the top right of the screen, I have to be at this question. And if I'm not, either I'm lagging or I am ahead. If I'm ahead, good. If I'm lagging, I have to skip a few questions or I have to move at a faster pace. So that was there. So other than that, what new that I did in this attempt was that because GMAT focus allows you to go back to the questions after you are done with your paper and make three choices from incorrect to correct, right? You can review your questions and change the answers. You are allowed three questions to change the answers for three questions. So what I
Mm-hmm.
did was that in order to not leave the paper like I did in my last attempt in DI, so I made a mental note that whenever there are 5 minutes left, I'll make flukes for all the questions. So generally, I was on the second last or the third last question. So I'll make a fluke, and I'll do whatever option, and then I'll go back and I'll correct it. At least that way, my questions are tick marked, right? And I won't get a heavy negative, which GMAT gives you if you don't complete the paper. So it's completed now. Now I still have those 3 minutes, right? Because I tick mark anything. Now I'll allocate those 3 minutes and take the best call out of these three questions, which one I want to do and I want to do correctly. So that's what I did. This the same thing I used for my verbal in my latest attempt. The same I used in my DI as well. So
Mm-hmm.
because there was always a rush for time in these two sections for me. So yeah, so these things were the changes that I made for my final attempt.
Hmm. And the
Yeah.
timing strategy part, which you said, where you have to make sure that you have finished this amount of questions before this amount of time.
Mhm.
Our founder BB on GMAT Club, he actually
Mhm.
made this whole timing strategy table, which
Mhm.
is quite popular. I think got a lot of kudos too. So if you guys want to check that out, we might link it somewhere in the description. It's definitely a good strategy to follow. Really helps with your timing if that's something you're struggling with. But you managed to work on your time management, I think, in the last few months of your prep, or was it like maybe the last month of your prep?
I was more focused on mindful practice. I was more focused on gaining clarity. I was more
Mhm.
focused on deserving a good score. I didn't want to get done with GMAT as soon as possible. I wanted to take my fair share of time. I knew I had already given so much of my time. I was like, why not some more? So I
Yeah.
wanted to deserve that score and I wanted to learn the rationale behind every question. So I went as slow as possible with the expectation that when the right time comes, I'll be able to speed through these questions, and which I did. By the fag end of the preparation, when I started timing myself, I still was not able to, do every question in less than 2 minutes. But yeah, more or less, I was able to kind of push myself through, get a time of 2 minutes 30 seconds ish. Some questions took me a lot more time, also 3 minutes 3:30, but that was it. And whenever you are giving the mock examination, whether it's a mock test or a final examination, I think you speed through things. So a little bit, that also happens. But yeah, by the fag end also, I was able to do it a little above two only. So, but there was a lot of introspection. There were a lot of notes made for every question. Why am I not able to think things? Why? What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? And uh, what I need to think, what I'm not thinking. So basically, with every question, I used to do take one, took so much time. Take two, I took so much time. Take three, take four. So that used to go on till the time I'm able to get it in a whether I'm able to do it right or wrong, and if I'm able to do it right in the specified time frame or not. So till that time, I used to revise those questions. So that was there. Yeah.
I mean, your strategy is really great because I mean, I've seen a lot of students who think that, this is easy. Like, it's okay, I'll cover the topic somehow, I'll solve the question, it will work. But it doesn't work that way. You really have to question yourself 10 times. There
Mhm.
must be something in this question that I don't know fully. Like
Yeah,
sometimes people guess, which I think you did in your first like 3, 4 attempts, that you were guessing most of the time. You thought that you knew things, but honestly, you didn't. You did not fully. If someone asked you a question, exactly why is this point, why is this answer the one you chose? You might have not been able to answer that. But I
yeah,
think now in your final attempt, you were very confident with your answers. You know what this question is asking you, and you knew how to answer it perfectly. Now my question was, how did it feel like seeing the 685? Did you feel like, okay, I'm done finally? I got the score I wanted.
yeah. So, a little bit about my examination. I didn't talk about my final attempt.
Yeah.
So basically, I started it off with verbal only,
Mm-hmm.
and for the first 7, 8 questions, I just got CR, right. And
Mm-hmm.
CR, I thought I'd been preparing for this for a while. I'll be able to do it. But the first question, I'm able to do it in 2 odd minutes. The second question uh, took 3 minutes, unable to do. Third question, able to do. Fourth question, wrong. Fifth question, right. So what is happening is that the first question is a medium question, right? That's what GMAT gives you. I'm starting my examination, my first subject, it's a medium question. I'm able to do it. The second must be a hard one. Hard or a very hard, I don't know. I made a mistake there. The third is then he brought the level down a bit. Now I'm able to do it, right? So he knows that my level is there somewhere between there and here. Now, third question is again hard. So, right, wrong. And then I maintained a streak of rights. And then came RC, then came CR. So I would like to mention in verbal from the 15th or the 16th question till the last, I was able to do all of them correctly. So that for me means that maybe I and the GMAT algorithm were in coherence, right? The GMAT had understood my capability and I had understood the level of questions that were coming, and I had a clean exit in the end. So in all, I got 4, 3, 3 questions in RC, 3 passages. One was of 4 questions, two were of 3 questions. And in RC, in CR, I got 13 questions. So in all, I made 3 mistakes in CR and 3 in RC. So even with 3 mistakes in CR, I got a percentile of I think 91 or 92 in CR. So happened to be very nice for me. In RC with 3 mistakes, I got a percentile of around 55-ish, around 55, 56. So my overall in verbal went to be a 76 percentile, which was my weakest subject, and I was very happy about it. So that was my verbal. Uh, with this I came to DI. In DI I was very clear about not making any silly mistakes this time around. And so I didn't get overconfident. I balanced myself. I didn't jump through solutions. I didn't race past reading the passages and moving ahead. I took my fair share of time and I absorbed the questions. And that's how I went about it. Generally, in DI, what I'll also like to advise people is that, at least that's what I did, was that I used to leave MSR questions because they take a lot of time. In fact, I didn't even practice for those because I knew that either it's very hard or it's very easy. So a lot of practice might not do me very well. So I just did all the other parts. I left MSR. But in my final examination, the MSR happened to be easy. So I went ahead with it. I took an executive decision and I was like, I'll do it. And I did it in less than 2 minutes. So that worked well for me. And I moved ahead. And otherwise, DI went fine. Had to take a few calls here and there, leave a few questions because that's how it goes. You don't have to get too excited about any question if you're not able to do it. You just take the best call and move ahead. And by the end of the paper, I still was having a time crunch. I had 3 odd minutes left and 2 questions to do. So I followed the same strategy that I talked to you about. Uh, you know, uh, Hello.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Hello.
Uh, I thought my video is not. Yeah.
No, no, all good.
Yeah. So basically, I just took a fluke for the last two questions, and then I went back and did those correctly. So that's how I approached my DI. Your video is getting frozen.
Really? For
Yeah,
me, well, for me,
but I'm able to hear you. So I think, is that working fine?
I can see myself and yourself quite well. But I mean, if
Yeah.
anyone has seen that issue, feel free to let us know in the comments. Okay.
Sure. So yeah,
And
that's
what
how
about
it went. Yeah.
the quant section? You've mentioned
Yeah.
verbal.
Yeah. So after DI, what happened was that quant happened to be very hard, and uh, the questions were pretty hard for me. And generally, Are you still able to hear me, Selby?
Yeah, I can hear you quite well. Don't worry.
Okay. So the quant happened to be pretty hard, and generally I have around 10-12 minutes spare in quant. But this time around, the quant section, I took a lot of time. One question I took above 6 minutes, and other than that, also, like generally, uh, I barely managed to complete quant. So I think partly this was happening because my DI went well, in which I scored a 97 percentile. So according to the algorithm, my quant must be super hard. So I did the best I could. I took a few calls for a few questions, and uh, made five mistakes overall. But I barely managed to complete it this time around. So by the time quant ended, I wasn't very sure what kind of a score I'll get. So that's how the
You
quant went. Yeah.
managed 685. I mean, that sure must have felt like a relief when you saw that score appear on the screen.
Yeah, when the quant section was there, and when the time ended, and the time between the screen calculating your score and it coming up, I thought that I won't even look at my score, because I didn't want a low score. So, but then I was like, all right, I have to look at it, and let me see what my score is. And I just saw the numbers 685, and that was fine for me. And I was like, I think I've done it this time. I also
Correct.
saw a few nines here and there, the percentiles for DI and DI and quant, I think, but
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't kind of absorb those numbers. I just saw
You
a
were just
685, and I think I was
685.
done. Yeah,
Do you want to attempt it again? Do you have the mental
not
capacity?
really, not again.
I think it's done. Ho gaya. Khatam.
Yeah, 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 I'm done with it. Done and dusted.
Now comes like I think the more other important aspects of your application. Everything, the essays, the resumes. Now you have to prepare all of those. But I mean, it's
Exactly.
crazy. I mean, I love to hear your approach. This is something I feel a lot of people do struggle with, especially with inconsistent scores. So this is something that people should watch and take note of and try with their preparation. But anything else that we missed, or any other advice that you have for our users watching this debrief?
Uh, I think I mentioned most of it. That basically treat GMAT like a part of your life, not like your whole life. Uh, you can balance your work, you can balance your family life, social life, your sports, your workout, and your GMAT together. So, try and do that. Don't make it your complete life. Uh,
Correct.
and Study, but don't not study a lot, right? 2
Mm,
hours, 2.5 hours every day, I think would do you enough, at least for verbal and for DI. For quant, if you need, I won't say about quant because that was sorted for me, but at least for these two subjects. And uh, treat GMAT like a part of your life. Learn from it, right? So the concepts that we talked about, doing things slowly, right, but getting them right, and then slowly reducing your time. I kind of applied the same thing to my running, right? And I recently participated in a half marathon. I ran 21 kilometers, and I didn't run before this. Like at least I didn't run 21. So initially I went as slow as I can. I just wanted to complete it. So I completed it in a 2.5 hour time frame. Then I reduced my time a bit, did it in 2:15. And then before the actual marathon, I got a time of 2 minutes and 2 seconds. And I was like, all right, I wanted to do it in less than 2 hours. So in half marathons, your 700 GMAT score is a less than 2 hour time. So I was like, I want a less than 2 hour. And when I actually ran, I got a time of 1:48, 1 hour 48 minutes. So I kind of applied the same, rationale there, and it worked out. So I think we can approach our life using these methodologies, these
Right.
scientific methodology which GMAT has taught us.
True that. But I mean, this was definitely inspiring. And again, congratulations on your score. I hope the next part of your business school application journey goes even better than this, and you get into the schools that you truly want to get into, your dream schools. But yeah, but thank you so much, Manraj. This was amazing. And guys, if you want to reach out to Manraj, we are going to add his LinkedIn uh, profiles somewhere in the comments or in the description, so you can check it out there. You can reach out to him, or if you want, comment your questions on this GMAC, on this video on YouTube, and Manraj can respond to them there as well. So thank you so much, Manraj, and best of luck for your business school journey now.
Thanks a lot, Selby. Lovely talking. I hope I contribute to the GMAT Club family in whichever way possible.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you, Selby. Bye bye.